Barita Investments has appointed Ramon Small-Ferguson as their new CEO. So, who's the man now in charge of Barita's investment arm, and what new plans does he have for the company? Joining me now to discuss, we have CEO of Barita Investments and Managing Director of Barita Unit Trust Management Company, Ramon Small-Ferguson. Welcome back to the show, Ramon.
Thanks, Kalilah. Happy to be here.
I said welcome back because you have been on the program
I
before
have
in a
been,
different
yes,
capacity. You've been
yes,
promoted. But for those who don't know you, give us some background. Who is Ramon Small-Ferguson?
sure. So, from a professional perspective, I've been an investment professional for over 10 years. I joined Barita now 5 years ago from the Jamaica National Group, where I served in different capacities. I started out as an analyst, I was an assistant portfolio manager, and I left as chief investment strategist of the group's investment arm, JN Fund Managers Limited. At Barita, I've cycled through a few roles. I joined in 2019 to help to build out the asset management business and the research function as VP Asset Management and Research. I moved up to Executive Vice President of the same area, and then I took over as Executive Vice President of the entire investment function. Was promoted to Deputy CEO last year, and now I'm CEO. In terms of my background outside of that, I'm a proud graduate of the University of Technology, Jamaica, where I did a bachelor's degree in finance and marketing. And I also graduated last year from NYU Stern Business School, where I did my master's in quantitative management. I'm a CFA charter holder, a certified financial risk manager, a certified alternative investment analyst, and a few other things. I'm just a finance guy in general, very
Mhm.
passionate about the world of finance.
So you've climbed up the ranks consistently. Is this what you always wanted to do, what you always envisioned yourself doing?
That's a very good question. So, my vision for what I wanted to ultimately become evolved greatly over the years. So, as a child, I actually wanted to be a zoologist. I loved animals, and Steve Irwin was my hero. And over time, it evolved and evolved, and eventually I fell in love with business, and I was able to narrow that down to finance as I went through university. And I'm here. I initially wanted to be in risk management, ended up in investments, and now I'm CEO.
What about finance appeals to you?
A very good question. So, what really appeals to me, Kalilah, is the ability to create value from just an idea, right? Quite frankly, whatever you can think about as a concept, there may be a financial solution that can bring that from concept to something that can actually positively affect the lives of many people. So that's really the ability to create that value, to actually turn something that's intangible into something that's tangible through financial solutions is really what gets me going.
Interesting. Now, I want to speak a bit about your vision for Barita as well, because I'd say in the past 5 years, the Barita name has kind of become a household name. We see it all over social media, we see the ads, we hear Barita being talked about. But this past year, 2023, I think was a challenging year for Barita. We saw profit dip. You had $479 million in net profits for the last quarter compared to probably like double that same period 2022. What's your vision for the company, and then we can look more closely at the numbers.
Yeah, sure. So, over the last 5 years, Kalilah, we have really set out to, as our mission at the group level says, to challenge the status quo, right? And that has been characterized by a lot of growth. As you have said, we went on a deliberate path to really sensitize the Barita name around Jamaica and in the region. And we would have gone about really infusing the business with a lot of capital, right? Financial capital, human capital. We've expanded existing business lines, gone into new business lines, and that has really redounded to the benefit of our customers, our team members, and our shareholders, right? So my vision for the business is really to continue along that particular path, right? But I have particular ways that I really want to focus on getting it done. One is really about the people internally, right? I really want to help to make this business the employer of choice within this sector, within this region, right? I mean, I really want to expand beyond just being known for creating immense value to being the place to work in this sector. Separately, I mean, that's really part of that ethos of challenging the status quo and really seeking to change lives as a business. We want to be a part of the transformational things that are slated or poised to happen in Jamaica. So, I mean, you have spoken on this show a lot about Jamaica's economic evolution, the fact that we have seen deleveraging of the country, the reduction in our debt stack. And now we're at a place where we can actually see real large scale capital investments in areas like infrastructure here in this country. So we want Barita to be a critical player in that stage of Jamaica's, or in this stage of Jamaica's evolution, right? And the third thing that we really want to be known for is really connecting with our customers, right? And that has been a big thing for us. But I want to take it to another level. I really want to see how we can, one, use technology to really revolutionize how we interact with our customers. And two, I really want us to see how, from all dimensions of our business, whether it's products all the way to our branches are designed, how we can really continue to metamorphosize into the people's investment bank. Right? So
Mm.
that's really it across those three lanes.
You mentioned technology. What ideas do you have for using technology to accomplish those goals?
Sure. So I mean, there is certainly, I think, Khalid, if you think about the effects of the pandemic, there are many negative effects. But if we had to take one positive from the pandemic, it's really the increased adoption and comfort that we have been forced to have with technology, right? And I think that that has really pulled forward the viability of a lot of potential solutions, even in this sector, right? So for us, we want to be able to leverage technology to better serve our customers in a few ways. One is things like onboarding, right? How do you actually get in and become a customer of Barita? Now, we have online onboarding as a feature, but we want to revolutionize even that and make it very simple, make it a few clicks for you to become a customer of Barita. Separately is how do you get your investment advice? I mean, do you need to speak to an advisor about every element of the market? Or can you interface with us online and actually get at a minimum basic advice around things such as fact-based investment stats and things along that line. And the third thing is how can you invest autonomously? So for those of us who are a bit more sophisticated, who can direct our own activity, how can you face a screen and go straight through from idea to execution in terms of buying different securities in your portfolio? And all of those elements are on our technology roadmap as a business for us to perfect.
Those are great ideas. And I want to ask our audience, let me know in the chat, what are your pain points with as it regards investing in Jamaica on the
Yes,
Jamaican stock
please.
market? What are the issues that you're having? If you're a Barita customer, what are your pain points? You have the CEO on right now. You have an opportunity to tell him what issues you're having. I love the idea of being able to get your investment advice online, having somebody that is there, that is available. When we did our survey, that was one of the issues that investors noted, that it was hard to get
Yeah,
advice, just access, not even talking about quality yet, quality of advice, just access to advice, what to do, when to sell, when to buy, and that kind of thing.
yeah. No, no, completely understood. I mean, we have seen that from our end, and it's really about how can we become scalable and more effective as an organization. I mean, I spoke about becoming really oriented primarily towards our customers, being the investment bank of choice for people. And the only way to do that is really to figure out how we can meet people where they are, meet their needs. I mean, Kalilah, you spoke about your thrust to break down investments for the ordinary person. And that's a key part of what we want to do. But we want to make it so that you don't need to be sitting in front of somebody for them to explain it to you. You should be able to access it fairly easily from the comfort of your own home. Right?
So I have a few comments here online. Rashane says Barita is the first broker where I open an investment account without having to ever enter the building.
That's
Javon says I love a Barita app. Oh, I would love a Barita app.
okay. All right, Javon. Well, your idea is already in our mind. So look out. And Rasheen, I'm happy that you were able to open your account without having to come into the building. But when you have time, you can stop by our new Kingston office. We'd be happy to see you.
So we have Shamar wanting to know, are there any plans to allow customers to invest more in foreign markets?
Very good question, Shamar. So what we are doing in general is to expand the business to become more capable. And one key part of that is more efficient access to different markets. And the fact is that it's important for us to deliver value to our customers, right? And what that means is that it's not only to deliver a product, but to deliver the product at the best possible price, at the best possible speed. So what we have been focused on with respect to our access to certain international markets is twofold. One, from a cost perspective, how can we minimize the cost that you're going to face in trying to access that market? And two, how can we maximize your access to information about that market, right? So we're not going to be sending you out into the wilderness, for want of a better way of describing it, by yourself. And we've been refining those two lanes. So right now, you can actually access foreign markets through Barita, but admittedly, we are not the most cost efficient at it, but we're working at it. And twofold, you can access foreign markets, but the quality and depth of the information that we're able to give you in some respects may not be the best. We're very good in some areas, but not as good in others. Right now, we're working on rounding that out. That's just me being honest.
Alexia wants to know, when will your app be ready?
Alexia, very good question. So we're working diligently on the app, right? And I can say that some version of it, and it won't be the end game, but some version of it will be available in the next few quarters, right, for you guys to test out, give us feedback, and for us to
The next
refine
few
from there.
quarters is such a vague answer,
It is
Ramon.
a vague answer, Kalilah. I'm not going to give you something for you to hold me to, but we're working hard at it. Right? It's our priority in terms of interacting with the customers. I mean, I think that it can be a game changer because at the end of the day, apps are where it's at. I mean, several years ago, we never used to use apps, and now we use them without even thinking. Right? So for us, that's the next step in our technology journey. But we're refining. We're trying to ensure that what we put before you is easy to use. It's also very capable. It allows you to actually solve problems. It isn't just a shell. So give me a couple of quarters. Right? I just started
Okay.
as CEO. Give me a couple. A couple is
All
better
right.
than the next few. Right?
All right. All right. Couple. That sounds like
Yeah.
before by the end of the year, more or less.
All right. Let's work with that.
All right. Shelly Ann says, my pain is depositing money directly into my investment account from overseas.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
plans to
No.
make that easier?
That's a hard one, right? Or it has historically been a difficult one. Wiring money in, ensuring that it gets there, and then once it gets here, converting it as necessary. What we're trying to do is to develop more direct access to the international banking sector, so to speak, as a business. And that would allow for much more seamless transfers, both in and out of your investment account if you're operating in foreign markets. And I will say that we're very much down the road with that. I mean, when we think about the pain points, Kalilah, and we too have done our research, it really comes down to starting a relationship, and how easy or hard that is. I mean, people complain about how difficult that is. And then from there, the friction surrounding transacting, right? It's not so much the execution. People tend to kind of be able to figure out what they want to buy or what they want to sell. Where they have the pains are these operational elements, right? Where are my dividend checks? How can I fund into my account and fund out? How long does it take? Those are the issues that we're really trying to cut through, quite frankly, and get to the heart of. So, with respect to that particular one, it really comes down to how well we're plugged into the international banking system. And I can say that we have this one squarely in our sights and we're working on it.
So you can just do a simple wire transfer from your international account?
So you can, right? But the issues have always been, identifying where this wire is coming from. Different banks give you different experiences and so on and so forth, right? So for some people, it's quite seamless. But for the viewer who just mentioned, she is among a number of people who have had issues, right? And we're trying to break down the reasons behind the different issues. And as I mentioned, having some direct access into the international banking system does help to really eliminate or reduce significantly those issues.
Hmm. So, follow up to that question. Let me find it back. One Coco investor says he says or she doesn't believe your customer service is very good, and he also believes that there needs to be an easier way to add funds to your equity account. I don't know if this person is local or international. So we already
Yeah,
spoke about the international issues. Do you have issues locally with funding accounts as well?
yeah. So, I mean, I'm very sorry that your customer experience wasn't very good. But what I can say to you is that that is an area of continuous evolution for us. I mean, I'd love to hear from you directly, your experience, just to see how we can learn from it and see how we can refine. Right? But with respect to funding in and funding out of accounts, as I admitted, in my statement just previously, that is an area of pain for many people. Right? Getting into the account and getting out, and their experience may be different each time. What we're trying to do is one, make the experience smooth, and two, make the experience consistent, across the board, with different investors. So, I mean, I know that generally, people have expressed friction in that area. I know that some people have a great experience. And I know that some people have a great experience but don't have a great one every single time. And so, again, breaking down both diagnosing and solving the operational issues of investing is a critical part of enhancing the overall customer experience. And I set out here my three goals. I never said that they weren't ambitious. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason they're goals is because there is work to be done. Right. So I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm working to be the employer of choice. I'm working to be part of the large scale transformation of the lives of people here in Jamaica, the improving quality of life. And I'm also working to make sure that the customer sees us as the place to be. So the work is being done.
Couple comments on IG. We have Strides B saying we'd love to have more avenues to invest in US equities, which we already spoke about the plans
Yeah.
there. And then we have Gal Kahida saying access to advice would change the game in so many ways. Be the ones to do that and you win. So
Uh,
so get on that. We have more comments here on YouTube and Facebook as well. Let me see where we go. Philip says, congrats, Sir Ramon. We would like to see more tradable bonds on the JSE this year. Any plans for Barita Investments to bring some this year? And how is the IPO pipeline?
very good question. So, I mean, it's fantastic to see how the Jamaican investment landscape has evolved. I mean, the Jamaica Stock Exchange has done a fantastic job alongside the broker community to really grow the pool of investors, uh, in the stock market over the course of the last decade in particular. So on the bond side of things, which is, not a new avenue for investing, but certainly catching on and becoming more popular here in Jamaica, I certainly expect to see a lot more tradable bonds coming out. I mean, a number of companies have raised money via private placements, which are more targeted towards what they call accredited investors here in Jamaica. I expect, however, some of those companies and others to start to access funding through more public bonds, particularly publicly listed companies who are already subject to all the disclosure requirements that comes with being public. I expect them to see the public bond market as being an area to access funding, and I therefore expect to see a few more bonds being listed on the JSE. With respect to the IPO pipeline, what I'd say is last calendar year was a very challenging year from an IPO perspective for the Jamaica Stock Exchange. I mean, we only had one, right, which was a
Mhm.
listing that we would have brought to market, One Great Studios.
Right.
Uh, my expectation for the rest of the year, just based on what I am hearing and seeing in my own business, is that we're definitely going to have more than one. That means at least a 200% uh, of what we saw last year. I mean, the fact is that companies are regaining their confidence, and some of them are pushing ahead despite the circumstances. I mean, we would have seen the announcement last week from the Minister of Finance of the government's intentions to amend legislation to support an increase in the cap of the amount of capital that can be raised on the junior market. I think that's going to bring some companies out as well. So I'm excited for the prospects for this year, and I certainly think that there may be a pickup in terms of the number of companies that list, albeit to coming from a base of one, right? So that's not a revolutionary pronouncement to make.
Shavane wants to know if you have any plans to open more branches regionally, specifically in TNT.
Good question, Shavin. So what I'd say is that as an organization, we have been doing a good bit of business within the Caribbean region, right? And I spoke about one of the effects of the pandemic earlier, meaning us embracing technology. But one thing that we have also embraced is doing business virtually and digitally, right? I mean, during the pandemic, I did very large scale business with people who I never met up until maybe even last year. Right? So we have been able to branch out and do a number of transactions with a regional focus. I mean, one transaction that was very public is, for example, the cross listing of Massey. Here in Jamaica, we would have collaborated with First Citizens Investment Services on that. With respect to boots on the ground within different markets within the region, I can say that that's something that we have explored extensively, but we're not waiting on boots on the ground to serve clients throughout the region. So we have very good connections in Trinidad, and we have demonstrated that through collaborating with a number of them over and over. We'll continue along that path, but no immediate plans for boots on the ground in that market at this time.
Okay, somebody else asking locally, what about here? St. Anne location on the way, and I saw somebody else ask about Portmore.
St. Anne and Portmore. So Portmore is very densely populated. That's where everybody is, right? And in St. Anne as well. I mean, St. Anne is growing both from a commercial and residential perspective. I can say that we definitely have plans for Portmore. I'll say that on this show. Kalilah, I'll break it here first. We have already done a lot of the foundational work around that. So you will start to see the banners going up soon. I won't tell you the exact location,
Mm.
but we are certainly going to be welcoming all the Portmore residents with open arms in our new branch. So I'll share that here first.
What's the timeline on that?
Uh, so that one, Kalilah, is actually sooner than the timeline I gave you before. As I said, we've done the foundational work, so I expect to be opening a new branch before the end of the year.
Sometime this year. Awesome. Congratulations when the time comes. Congratulations in advance. Nigel is expanding that thought. Any thoughts of listing on the Trinidad Stock Exchange?
Yeah, good question, Nigel. So again, we have been able to attract investors from all over the region, right here from Jamaica. I mean, the fact is that the Jamaica Stock Exchange, by any metric, is the most vibrant and deepest stock exchange and market within the Caribbean region. Our second largest shareholder is Trinidadian, just as an example. That being said, while we're open to many different avenues of capital raising, as we have shown, there are really no immediate plans for any cross listing on the TTSC at this time.
Okay, I just found back the comment about Sunshine City. So he answered your question, Shavane,
I
coming to
did.
the Sunshine City. 1 Coco. So this is a person who said he had or she had problems with funding the account. Apparently, this person is overseas, and he or she says a dividend reinvestment program would be a game changer.
No, I mean, completely agreed. And I mean, we know Barita has been a fairly consistent dividend payer. I believe that these programs exist in spots on the JSC, but for sure making it more popular and allowing investors to benefit from compounding over a long period of time could definitely change the game. So you're giving me some ideas there. Thank you very much. I still want to hear about the customer service issue. So maybe before the end of the show, I'll give Kalilah some insights into how I can be contacted directly.
Yeah, well, same person, Shavane, also commended your customer service, saying with the exceptional, great customer service Barita offers. You answered the rest of the question. How do you plan to convert that with apps and websites and digital stuff? We already spoke about that, but I just wanted to point out that you had somebody else who commended Barita's
Thank you.
customer service.
I mean,
Uh,
well, the key, Kalilah, is to make the experience consistent because that is definitely the feedback that we've gotten. I mean, the vast majority of our customers are like Shavane, but there are a few that may have had a bad experience here and there. So, I mean, while we really appreciate the positive feedback, we will take the constructive feedback as well, because that's how we learn and grow. Right? So, I'm very happy that someone on here had a good customer service experience with us.
we have a lot of questions coming in for you, Ramon. Steve wants to know if you have any plans to do an index fund.
Yeah, very good question, Steve. So, we're always thinking about how can we add more value via our product stack, right? And an index funds have been used internationally as a easy way to get exposure to the market. Very passive. People just invest and they close their eyes, and years pass and they benefit. Our local market has seen a couple of index funds list to it with mixed outcomes, and that's really no fault of the fund itself. It's just the market. What I'd say is, to the extent that an opportunity presents that's unique in that area, we will latch on to it. Right? But we're not intending to do more of the same. It would reasonably need to be something unique that really adds value. But we're prospecting.
We have a suggestion from Shelly Ann, who is the person who was complaining about funding the account from overseas. So
Yeah,
she says, has Barita looked into global transfer with Visa and MasterCard? It is treated like a purchase and there is no fee to send the funds. And then she continues, wire transfer is so last century. With
yeah.
Visa, MasterCard, card global transfer, everything is done online or from the banking app.
Well, Shellyan, thanks for that suggestion. Right, I will say that I'm familiar with that feature, well, more so from the Mastercard side. So it's something that we will definitely need to look into because, as you have said, it's instant and frictionless, and that's the kind of customer service experience we want. So I can promise you that we're going to be looking into it.
Yeah, this turned into an Ask Ramon session because the
Oh,
viewers are so excited to talk to you, Ramon.
keep the
And
questions coming.
I'm gonna take one more actually. So, and this one comes from Eats. I think Eats was also on Instagram. I was just about to come to it, but moved over to YouTube. What advice do you have for a new investor coming into Barita with a lump sum of funds that doesn't have much knowledge of the market and offerings?
Good question. So it's like any new relationship. It starts out with getting to know each other, right? So one, we will help you to get to know yourself. as an investor, right? And the first port of call is determining what's your appetite for risk. So, how much risk can you take based on your circumstances? And we also want to explore how much risk you're willing to take based on your own personality, right? And the key is to try and bridge the gap between the two. Some people are willing to take a lot of risk, but their circumstances really don't allow them to take much risk, right? They may be, for example, older with less investable funds, right? And if that is the case, then you really should be focused on lower risk investments. And similarly, some people may may have no appetite for risk whatsoever. Then they may not be willing to take any risk, but they have the capacity to take a lot of risk. So the first thing is to get to know the person and their circumstances. The next thing would be to curate a portfolio that matches up with those objectives. So I want to know, what are your goals, right? You want to own a home in 5 years, or is it a year? If it's 5 years, then maybe we can put a portion of your portfolio into risky assets. But if you need to have a deposit in 6 months and this lump sum is that deposit, then we will need to put it in something safe. So the key is going down that path of us getting to know you, you getting to know yourself better as an investor. There is a basic investor education that will need to take place because you're just starting out. And I mean, I always tell people it's like going to the doctor. If you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you a diagnosis, you don't automatically become a doctor, but you start to learn from the doctor and other sources what this diagnosis is about, right? And you learn more and more each time you visit, and that's how investing is. You start out, and you learn more and more along the journey. So it's an education session that starts the process, and then we get to executing thereafter. So the advice that I'd give to that investor is to learn as much as possible upfront, such that you're comfortable executing over time. And the next thing I'd say is ask multiple opinions. Right? Don't just rely on one person. I mean, even us, we give quality advice, but perspectives are very good, and it will also help you to figure out what you need to ask us when you come to query about your money and hold us accountable. Right? So get multiple perspectives is the next bit of advice I'd give.
Absolutely. And Eats, you can always take my Investing for Beginners course, or just start out with the free guide, which gives you, what was it called again? Financial Terms Made Simple. And that will help prepare you for your conversation with your investment advisor at Barita or elsewhere, wherever you decide to eventually open your investment account. Ramon, earlier, I got sidetracked because we got so many questions, but I was asking you about that dip in profits,
Yes,
which was a billion and then it fell down to 470 something million. What happened in that last
sure.
quarter of 2023 and how do you plan to change it?
Of course. So, Kalilah, I mean, it's really in the context of the market. I mean, the fact is that, and we've been talking to our shareholders over the course of the last several quarters in our investor briefings and in the reports that accompany our numbers to give guidance around market conditions. The fact is that we've all seen it. Traditional assets have taken a bit of a hit over the course of the last 18 to 24 months. Interest rates, both locally and internationally, have seen an unprecedented rise over an unprecedentedly short period of time. Right? Locally, we have seen benchmark rates, Bank of Jamaica benchmark rates go from 0 to 7%. Internationally, we've seen rates go from very near to 0 to 5%, and that has created a difficult environment for stocks, bonds, all the things that both us and our clients typically invest in. And what that has created is an environment where traditional earning sources have been challenged. I mean, net interest income, as an example, which is the income that we generate from the assets that we invest in versus the expenses that we pay out to our clients who place monies with us, that has fallen because interest rates have gone up. Similarly, trading has been down. People are less interested or less invested in the market, in the stock market, in the bond market, and therefore revenue from that area has gone down. And finally, less companies have been doing deals, and the deals have been smaller in size. Again, interest rates have moved up materially, and a company who could probably borrow money at 7% 2 years ago will now have to pay 11.5 or 12%. That's scary to
Mm-hmm.
some entrepreneurs, right? That being said, if you look at what would have happened for our earnings relative to the previous year, you'd have seen a fall in revenue attributed to the market environment in general, but it is unique to Barita. In fact, I mean, a number of our counterparts in the same sector have even seen profits disappear and become losses as a result of the same kind of factors. So I think that the fact that we would have generated a profit, albeit materially lower than the previous year, is actually evidence of the resilience of our business, right? Which is something that we have set out to build since taking the business over. We've really been pushing diversification. We've added new business lines, reduced the reliance on interest income, as an example, which was over a third of our revenue before the acquisition and fell down to as low as less than 20% when our revenue was at its highest. Right? So really, I mean, looking back at what would have caused the decline in revenues and looking forward to future quarters, we're very optimistic. I mean, I spoke a bit earlier about my view what will happen with new listings and capital market activity in general, and we're already seeing an uptick there. Additionally, rates have stopped going up, and certainly we don't anticipate that they will go up again to the degree that they've gone up before or at the pace, right? And therefore, with interest rate stability, it starts to give an opportunity for us to see a resurgence in some of the traditional areas of revenue. So, net interest income, for example, is poised to improve. Trading is poised to improve as well. And overall, investment banking activity from that uptick in capital markets will improve too. So, from our perspective and from my seat, I'm very optimistic about our ability to really expand the value creation in the business and by extension to improve our revenues going forward. So, it's a difficult time for the market in general. I mean, if you look across to my counterparts, you'll see it too. But we've built a very resilient business. We raised over $33 billion in capital, Kalilah, to not only take advantage of opportunities as they've presented themselves, which we have, but to ensure that it's a sturdy base. So even if there is a storm of interest rate increases or, a wave of declines in the stock market, you still have a very strong business that can produce a profit, albeit more modest, that can pay a dividend, maybe a bit more modest at this point in time in the cycle. But I'm really more interested in the upswing, and I think that we will return to an upswing, at some point in time in the not so far future. So
You
that's
see
really what
signs of
we're
that.
working towards.
Do you see signs of that starting now?
We have seen signs of that starting, and I'll tell you where. And capital market activity has increased. Some more companies are coming out raising money, and you've seen it. It's made its way to the traditional media. And again, interest rates have leveled off for a while now. And what that means is that the funding cost of businesses like ours is fairly stable. And at the same time, we are able to now reinvest in assets at higher rates of return, right? So we maybe would have invested in assets 3, 4 years ago at 6 and 7%. And those assets are now maturing and we're able to invest at 10 and 11%, which will in turn redound to the benefit of future revenues. Trading activities is picking up again, which is an area that would have been quelled by higher rates over the course of the last several quarters. And there have been improvements in revenue sources there for securities dealers in general. So for sure, we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel, a silver lining to the cloud. And I can tell you, Kalilah, that in many respects, Jamaica is in the best place that it has probably ever been from the perspective of investment opportunities, given the macroeconomic stability that we have benefited from over the last decade. So, stability and our credit worthiness presents opportunities for investment banks like us. So optimistic.
All right. Thank you very much, Ramon. Truly appreciated. And all the best in your new role.
Thank you so much, Kalilah. I appreciate it too. And thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks for all the questions and the comments. And looking forward to continuous feedback. I'm here to listen and work on your behalf. All right.
Good stuff. We shall be seeing a lot more of you.